Hello, my name is Nicolas Evzonas. I'm a clinical psychologist with a psychodynamic training. I also hold a PhD in modern Greek literature and honors in classics. The fruit of this double background in literature and psychoanalysis is the article that I'm going to present to you today, Achilles, a Homeric hero, enamored with the absolute, which will appear in an upcoming issue of the International Journal of Psychoanalysis. In this contribution, I argue that the Iliad, the ancient Greek epic narrative by Homer, that constitutes what I'd call the primal scene of Western literature and the epitome of heroism, is a hymn to affect much more than an ode to war and force. It is indeed a poem devoted to the paroxysm of emotion, despite the seeming lack of attention accorded to the inner life of its characters. Let me recall here that, unlike ancient Greek tragedies, with their more developed aggressive and erotic confrontations within the family and the self, in Homeric epics we are rather dealing with a world bathing in psychological pre-Oedipal fluidity, with a character still in the process of formation. Having said this, my paper focuses on the key figure of Achilles, who embodies the ancient Greek heroic idealism in an exemplary way. First, I show that the contest for supremacy with another domineering chief, who confiscates Achilles' female booty and triggers his legendary wrath, is a poetic translation of an ideality syndrome that is inseparable from sadomasochism. This encompasses a primary logic of splitting between over-gratifying and highly persecutory part objects. I then examine Achilles' raging grief after the loss of his treasured war comrade and show how paranoid schizoid mechanisms alternate with endeavors to access the depressive position. Moreover, by focusing on Achilles' choice for a glorious demise at the pinnacle of his youth and beauty, I argue that alongside the obvious idealization of a short life that conceals the anxiety of finitude, stands a desire for self-sacrifice and self-fulfillment specific to the sublimatory and non-repressive process. Finally, I examine how the affect of wrath, rooted in the body, is transfigured through epic speech, thus establishing a parallel between Homeric poetry and transference love that can liquidate toxic sensoriality in liberating terms. Throughout my contribution, I maintain that all aspects of Achilles' behavior are taken to an extreme limit that emanates from an all-or-nothing narcissistic logic and a primitive form of object relations. My overall claim is that the timeless appeal of the Iliad stems precisely from Achilles' passionate, excessive, and radical embrace of ideality, which reactivates the primitive drives of our pre-Oedipal past. In order to emphasize the trans-individual and trans-historical scope of Achilles' conduct, I suggest situating the latter in a universalist psychological myth entitled the Eros of the absolute. Regarding the methodology used in this paper, my approach towards Achilles is inspired by the epistemological perspective of the interactions of psychoanalysis, which is the dynamic interchange between metapsychology and other fields of knowledge. This fundamentally differs from the univocal monodimensional approach of applied psychoanalysis. Hence, I juxtapose a close reading of the ancient Greek original text, classical scholarship, and analytic postulates with the aim to propose an interdisciplinary framework and to open up a much needed dialogue between analysts, scholars who work on emotions across the humanities, and classicists who are informed by psychoanalytic principles. My ambition is thus trans-epistemological, but it is also trans-meta-psychological. This is why I employ a palette of psychodynamic models stemming from different linguistic traditions. I'd like to think that, although there is little in the way of clinical application in my contribution, I lay the ground for other therapists to apply my insights to psychoanalytic technique, especially with adolescents who typically suffer from the malady of ideality and its cortege of sadomasochistic symptoms. I hope that you will enjoy reading my paper, and thank you very much for your attention.